All right, Dog Nation, what is up? I'm Corey Burton here, joining you for a quick edition of the Believe in Georgia Dogs podcast on the Believe Network, presented by betonline.ag. Going to talk South Carolina matchup. Georgia's got a lot of injuries. Will that affect their matchup with the Gamecocks? Who knows? And, of course, I'm going to give you some picks presented by betonline.ag. Let's get it. All right. Welcome in. Happy Friday. It's a live edition of the Believe in Georgia Dogs podcast on the Believe Network. Corey Burton here. Israel's dealing with a family matter right now. Pray for him and his family. His grandfather-in-law has passed, so make sure you send your prayers up to Israel as him and his family are dealing with some tough times. But got a big matchup. It's first conference game of the season for the Georgia Bulldogs. We welcome South Carolina in between the hedges to take us on here. Getting off to I don't know. This game is interesting, okay? But we are, like I said, we are presented by betonline.ag, your number one source for all your sports betting needs, live game props, futures, anything that you want. Betonline.ag has it, including a live casino game. So if you like blackjack, if you like Caribbean stud poker, if you like Texas Hold'em, whatever you like, slot machines, whatever you like, betonline.ag has it. What you need to do is go to the website, betonline.ag, or I believe they have an app. Go to the app and say, put in the promo code BELIEVE, that's BLEAV, to get your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Heck of a deal if you do that. That's BELIEVE. Promo code BELIEVE for your 50% welcome bonus. BetOnline.ag, it's where the game starts. So this game is very, very interesting. And why is it interesting? Well, if you look back the previous two matchups that Georgia's had, UT Martin and most recently Ball State, you look at kind of some factors there. You have slow starts. You have different things on the table that could affect how this matchup goes. Injuries, guys out, Carson Beck being brand new, defense trying to still get used to each other and get used to, get better in tune with the scheme. There's a lot of factors that go into this. All right, Ball State was a lot better of a game offensively once they kind of found their groove and their footing in the second quarter on. That game became a 45-3 rout. It was a push, unfortunately. So this offense continues to find their footing. Now, what I like about Carson Beck, okay, this is the key. This is going to be the key for this offense, because now you got a conference opponent. Now you've got an actual defense that will make you pay if you can't get started quickly. And for Carson Beck, he's got to do that. I think he's playing nervous. I think the play calling is a little conservative, and I think there's some other things. There's some other things at hand that are going to hopefully be rectified, but I think that have made some things difficult. Now, once Carson got settled in against Ball State, then you kind of started seeing some of the throws, like the one throw to what's his name, Cash Money, right? Number 32, love him, man. He made that's how thin our running back room is, by the way. He dropped a dime right there, right at the corner of the end zone. For a beautiful touchdown. I mean, you started to kind of see him gain command of this offense. And I think once Coach Bobo understands that Carson can handle this, I think you'll see him start to give him a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more. But unfortunately, now that the meat of the conference schedule is about to hit, you have South Carolina, then you have UAB, and then it's all conference games, I think, until then. So you have to make sure that you have all of your ducks in a row so that by the time you get to that Ole Miss game, by the time you get to the Auburn game, and if you really want to be honest, like this weekend, Like, you need to have some stuff in order. But I think defense, not to give away the preview, I think defense can really kind of carry the load there a little bit too. So, but some things you need to know. I mean, there's still some key injuries. Lad McConkey, still not. He hadn't played the first 2 games. He's had a back injury. It's still up in the air. You'll hear Kirby say, "Hey, he's day to day. He's day to day. He's dealing with back injury. He's still very limited. I would not expect to see him until maybe the Auburn game. I'm thinking maybe is the day we see Lad McConkey. Dejon Edwards, he dressed out for both the games, but he hasn't played. He's had an MCL sprain. He caught during fall camp early on, was held out of a lot of things. So he's close. I think Auburn is a good landmark for him too. That's in 2 more weeks because you got UAB and you don't want to really run somebody out there for UAB that's still kind of banged up. So that leaves things thin, right? Dylan Bell had to get a few carries, which if this receiver thing don't work out for Dylan Bell, tailback might. So you never know. Javon Bullard, he left the Ball State game. He had an ankle injury. The defense was finally trying to get to full health, but that's a big shot to the defensive secondary. So, I mean, this depth chart's going to be tested. Let's just be honest about that. Next man up, it's going to be tested. So we'll see kind of what on the injury front, who's suiting up, who gets to play, who has limited reps. How's practice been going? Things like that. Like those are the kind of answers that we will see throughout the course of what this game looks like. Now, if you're in and you want to get in on the chat, feel free to participate. This is a live stream. So, injuries, man, injuries. All right. Hey, it's on the other side too. Wide receiver Juice Wells, Antoine Juice Wells. He's been limited this season. He's had some lower body stuff going on. He's only had 1 catch on the season. He's been off the field. We'll see if he can come back. Spencer Rattler has been affected by that because he is the number 1 receiver there. Xavier Leggett, he's been dealing with some stuff. They kind of struggled a little bit in the Furman game, and of course, most notably the UNC game. They couldn't protect. All right, so injuries are kind of hitting both sides. Georgia's getting some guys healthy, which I guess if the injury bug is going to hit you, I guess it's better to hit you now rather than later, because you'll need to be full strength for that stretch in mid to late October on through the rest of the season, because you have Florida, Tennessee, Kentucky, Ole Miss. You have all those games in there, the SEC championship, hopefully. That's a possibility, which if Georgia does what they're supposed to do and what they're projected to do, they should be in Atlanta playing against, well, if you listen to SEC After Dark, playing against who knows. My guess is Ole Miss. Ole Miss looks the best out of the West right now. Alabama's struggling, but they're Alabama. They'll get together. But if you want to listen to that full episode is on SEC After Dark, and it's right here on our audio. The audio side of it is actually on our channel here at Believe in Georgia Dogs. So, what else are we looking for in this game? All right, some other things we're looking for. How does this defense play Spencer Rattler? And on the flip side, how does Spencer Rattler play against this Georgia defense, in which he struggled mightily against last year? Couldn't get anything going a year ago. It was a nightmare effort for that defense, for Spencer Rattler, against that defense for Spencer Rattler. This defense went absolutely crazy, and it was insane. So for Spencer Rattler, what's going to happen there? How does he tool? And for this Georgia defense, how do they play Spencer Rattler? How do they play games with him? How do they force him into some turnovers that you're leaving going, what the heck, man? Like, what are you doing, Spencer? Like, stuff like that. Like, how does this defense play Spencer Rattler? Spencer Rattler is much improved since the last time we saw him. How does he play? How does that happen? We'll see. That's I think it's going to be one of those things where it's get as much pressure on him as you can. Kind of the obvious things like blitz him, hit him every chance you get in his face, disrupt his throwing, disrupt his timing, disrupt his throwing motion, flush him, things like that, contain him, and you'll see that he's one of those people that once you kind of get him rattled a little bit, pun intended, that he's one of those that can go kind of sideways in a hurry. North Carolina was able to do that. South Carolina was not able to protect very well. North Carolina was able to get in on Spencer Rattler, and they were able to get hits on him. Even though they weren't sacking him a whole bunch, they were still able to disrupt his confidence, disrupt his timing, disrupt just kind of everything with that South Carolina offense. So for defense, stop Spencer Rattler. For defense, just be fortunate that there's some injuries that are on your side. Like the receiving core is not healthy. All right. Is South Carolina going to be able to get much of a run game going? That's another question. Like, how can they help themselves against this defense? All right. We've noticed in the first two games, running downhill has been somewhat effective for teams against Georgia. Like running inside zone straight downhill. Teams have gotten some decent chunks on Georgia so far this year doing so. Is South Carolina going to be able to do that? Our team's going to be able to do that on a consistent basis against this Bulldog defense. That's something to look forward to. That's something to say, oh, okay. Like if there's something about this Georgia defense that gives you pause, it's that. And it's probably because Jalen Carter's not there. Jordan Davis is not there. There's no superstar in the middle yet. Keyword yet. Growth mindset. There's no guy there. So, of course, there's going to be some concern in the middle. How do they stop it? So that's another thing to consider. The linebackers, I think, are doing really well. I think pass rush, I think getting in on getting disruption on the quarterback, I think has been something that Georgia's been able to do. Malachi Starks has been nothing short of amazing. So I think defensively they'll have a good game plan. It's just a matter of, hey, what can we get out of our front seven? All right. For me, that's one of the biggest keys. You have to dominate as a front seven because you know the offense. Like you're gonna have to like this defense is gonna have to carry this offense a little bit. Like that's gonna have to happen. Why? Because this offense is just not there yet. They got a bunch of new pieces, and a bunch of the veteran pieces are out with injuries. So you have to kind of see, okay, what's going on here, right? So that's something to kind of look at, like what's happening. What's going to happen with this defense? This defense is going to have to carry this offense early on. And then eventually the offense will start clicking, and you hope they start clicking sooner rather than later because you have the South Carolina game, then you have another kind of tune-up against UAB, and then, man, you're on the road at Auburn. Like, that's not a place you want to go to if you're not firing on all cylinders, right? And so that starts tomorrow, firing on all cylinders. You got to get off to faster starts, okay? Offensively, here's the biggest key. Offensively, Carson Beck – he's got to get comfortable, right? He hasn't had any turnover. He has had one turnover, one interception, all right? Not really any turnover-worthy plays outside of that, and not really anything spectacular either. He's just kind of been there. Some guys have made some decent plays. There's been a couple of throws where you're like, okay, that's what we need. But like nothing like what Stetson Bennett was able to give us as far as big plays go. He's just been kind of managing the offense and just kind of getting there. All right. For Carson Beck, for him to take that next level, or whoever's the next quarterback, for whoever's the next quarterback to take that next level, which I think is going to be Carson, but they have to decide, okay, I need to do what? That's what I need to do. So that's my keys to the game. Special teams, obviously, always win special teams. Okay. Always win special teams. Now, Georgia's favored by 27.5. Are they going to cover that? My heart says, hell yeah. But my head is like, they haven't really covered a big spread yet. Like the closest they got was a push last week, a 42-point push. So can they cover it if they play like they're capable of and they come out aggressively? Absolutely, yes, they can. That's what I'm going to say. I'm going to go on record here. Georgia covers the spread. I think they win by 4 touchdowns. I think Carson Beck's going to finally have a big day. I think you're going to see some guys emerge in the backfield, a thin backfield. I think you're going to see I think you're going to see some really good things out of Marcus Rosemy-Jacksaint. I think finally having him back has been a shot in the arm a little bit. So I think Georgia's going to cover this thing, right? Not to go too far into the weeds here, but I think Georgia's going to cover this thing. So I think you're going to have some big plays. I think Carson Beck's going to finally get it together. Defense is going to shut him down. I think you're going to see somebody emerge up front on the defensive line. I think it's going to be Zion Logue. That's who I hope it is. Zion, if you're listening to this, let's have a big game. All right. Now, some other picks from around the country, presented by betonline.ag, your number one source for all your sports betting needs. Dude, I'm kind of digging these picks. All right. I'm kind of digging these picks. So we're going to go SEC picks. Just a couple of things. LSU at Mississippi State. This is an interesting one for me. LSU's favored by 10. I picked LSU because I think they have something to prove. They see that the West is down. They see that, okay, we still have everything we want in front of us, even though we got shellacked by Florida State. We still have everything we want in front of us, so I'm taking the Tigers. Okay? I already told you about Georgia. A&M, I say A&M because they're playing Louisiana Monroe, and usually that doesn't move the needle for anybody, but they're 36.5-point favorites. Can they cover that? No. I don't think so. I'm taking ULM because I just don't trust A&M to cover that much. Like, if they give up any points, they're going to have to score in the 50s to cover that almost. So I don't like that. Tennessee at Florida. This game, if it was early 90s and early 2000s, this is freaking game of the week. Like, everyone's been waiting for this all year long. But right now, Florida's down. Tennessee's off to a start. Tennessee is favored by 6.5 in the Swamp. That should tell you everything you need to know about Florida. If Tennessee is favored by that much in the Swamp, can you pick against Tennessee in that case? I think Tennessee's going to win. I think even though Joe Milton's been sluggish, I just don't think Florida's got it, man. I just don't think they do. All right, and then I'm going to leave you guys with Georgia Tech at Ole Miss because we hate Georgia Tech around these parts, right? But it's hard for me to hate Georgia Tech. At least it's hard for me to hate them on offense. And I can hate them all I want to on defense. I hope that we beat them. I hope that we beat them 62-40 because they scored a bunch of points. Because my cousin is the offensive coordinator, Buster Faulkner. Shout out Buster Faulkner. But Ole Miss is favored by 20 points. Why is this important? Because although I think Georgia Tech is going to score admirably, 20, 24 points, I think Ole Miss is going to double them up, and this is kind of what this is. I think it's going to be 40. I think it should be 45-24, some sort of score like that. That is an Ole Miss cover. All right, so I think Ole Miss can cover this simply because Ole Miss can score. They can score in bunches, and Tech's defense can't stop a nosebleed. So there you go. There you go. Those are your lines. It's kind of a week 3, right? It's kind of week 3. So, but I'm going to leave you there. It's a short episode, again, because Israel and I aren't here to bounce ideas off each other. But there's a few keys to the game. You can kind of peruse this up Saturday morning, later this evening if you want to. The audio side will be downloaded in a little while, probably tomorrow morning. But it's been a crazy week, been a hectic week for both of us. And so usually we'll have more SEC content for you. But we'll kind of start that next week. We'll recap you Sunday or Monday, and then we'll give you another preview just kind of as things settle in. So, but until next time, I'm Corey Burton. This is the Believe in Georgia Dogs podcast on the Believe Network, presented by betonline.ag. We hope you have a great weekend. If you're traveling to Athens, stay safe. Find us on social media. Follow us. Subscribe to us right here on YouTube. Find us wherever you find your podcast, and we'll see you back here next week better than ever. And as a duo, go Dogs.